Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Rav, and I'm here to bring you guys my Kinetic Combat and Darkness Assassin PvP tank guide. So starting off, we're going to have 3 builds that we can look at. Although I only have 2 in my thing here. One of them is listed as Cleave and swaps because you just change 2 utility points and you're good. It's not even worth, and I don't even have to change my gear. It's not worth, you know, a whole loadout for doing that. So before I begin, we're going to look at our tacticals here. So we have 3 of them. 2 of them are for the first build, and then this one is for the second build. So the first 2, for the Force Resilience, which is your Shroud inside. It also applies your Shroud to any ally that you are guarding, which is really nice, and I'll show that off once I actually get to the builds. Then we get to Shroud of Shadow. So while your Kinetic Ward or Dark Ward on Imp side is active, it extends your Shroud. I'm just going to call it Shroud for the video, by the way. It's much easier for me. I'm an Imp player, but I think the animations on Shadow look cooler. So your Shroud is going to be extended for every stack of your Dark Ward is active on you. And that makes you just really, really tanky for such a squishy build. Because we are playing skank tank. We're not playing mid tank. Although I will say in regs, if you want to be a mid tank with this and just be hardcore objectives, it's going to be hard to lose. Because even on skank in regs, this is just really fun. And I do think that this is more of a regs tank. But I obviously bring it into arenas. Although I will say for arenas, it requires a really good healer and a really good DPS with you. You can't just solo carry on this like you can on Jug Tank. So yeah, and then the third tactical, 2 cloaks. This is normally the DPS tactical, but we have a build in which we will take this for tank tunneling games. All right, now I will kind of show you some key abilities here, right? So first off, your Saber Strike, which is your basic attack, this is for force management. And I'll get into that later on in the video. And you got Project, which will build a stack of Harnessed Shadows, no matter what, if it's procced or unprocced. And then your Slow Time, which is called Wither, Imp side. And by the way, Project is your Shock, Imp side. And I'm going to have all the abilities that I talk about here. They are all going to be transcribed down below to the Imp side abilities. Like I said earlier, I just think this is cooler on pub side because the animations don't cover up your lightsaber color, which is the issue that I have with Darkness Tank. I much prefer Kinetic Combat over Darkness, actually, which is kind of shocking because I prefer the Imp side abilities for a lot of things. Next, your Whirling Blow, which is just your AoE there. It's called Lacerate or Laceration Imp side. Not sure which one it is. One of them is for Concealment Operative. Force Stun, which is, come on, there we go, which is your hard stun. You got Force Speed for kiting and getting away. And you have your execute ability, Spinning Strike. This is called Assassinate Imp side, but I can't use it because the target's not below 30. And you have your pull, just on a 45-second cooldown. It's pretty nice. Got your maul, which is called Shadow Stride, and this will be buffed. This is going to give you a proc for your project, if I can show it there. And this will be buffed by using Shadow Stride. It is on a limit rate, though. I'm not sure the exact limit rate. Now, next you have your Force Breach, which is an AoE baseline in tank spec. So, sorry about that. It also applies a unsteady debuff, which just reduces the melee and ranged accuracy, which is going to be white damage. Let me just see if anything else does that. Trauma is done by your Devil Strike and your Whirling Blow. And you have your Force Potency, which on tank is a defensive as well as offensive. So you get the 2 stacks there. Next is your Cascading Debris, which you can use on cooldown with my Cleave build, or when it's procced with all three of the builds. Then your Force Slow, which you already get a slow from Wither, by the way. So if you stack these, if you're chasing down one target, they will be very slow unless they use a cleanse or a movement cleansing ability. And you got your Shadow Stride, which you can use out of stealth to great effect on tank spec. And like I said, it does buff your Maul or Shadow Stride. And then your Protect. There you go. Next is your Force Cloak. I'm not going to show that off just yet because I'm going to show that off in the the 2 cloaks build. And over here, you have your Kinetic Cord. Pretty much always keep this up. Keep an eye on this right here. It's your stacks of what's called shield chants. And our tacticals, 2 of the tacticals that we have are, or no, I guess one of them are affected by this. Next is your deflection, has the same name, Imp Side. Puts a giant puddle on the ground here. And pulsating force, I believe that's only for tank. It reduces the well, I have to look at it, but it reduces the, I think it said force and tech damage for nearby enemies. So if you use that, if you're like in a cleave pile with like a Lethop or like a Pyro PT, their damage should be reduced. But I would not be playing this tank against those 2 specs, honestly. No, actually, maybe, because this can be used as a range tank. There's a couple of things that you can do. So, like, you can stay out of the cleave, but in guard range if you're, like, kind of on the perimeter. And you can do this with Cascading Debris, since it's a cast. You can get, like, 20 meters away before it will just cancel the animation, I believe. Yeah, see right there. 20 meters away, and you can just, like, zip back in if you want to. Shit, that was my bad. Let me do this. You strafe away. And you come back like this. Something cool like that. Next is your Shroud, which looks like this. It's kind of hard to tell the difference on the shadow of that animation because a lot of your stuff, makes you light up like this little passive here. For synergy, makes you like all like light up and stuff. So it's hard to tell the difference between that and Shroud unless you're like really paying attention. Next is your Mind Snap. Can I use it, please? Oh, the animation didn't go off, but yeah. Mind Snap is your interrupt, and then we have Spinning Kick right here, which is Spike. And depending on a couple of the builds here, I will change up my my abilities down here on the bottom. Then over here you have your Mass Mind Control, which is your AoE Taunt. And you can see I'm getting heals from that. I'll explain that when we go into the builds. We got a single target taunt, obviously, which is on a lower cooldown of 15 seconds. But we are taking the reduced cooldown timer on Mass Mind Control. But that is only when you take damage with your Stacks of Dark Ward up. And then on this particular build, I'm running Force Lift, which is Whirlwind on Assassin. And you can't see the animation because it's just a dummy, but they would be like chilling up here. Okay, so now getting into the builds, and I did this very smart thing. You can put a like a grabbing gear build where you just grab all your gear and then swap to your thing, and it'll just slap all of your gear on, which is very nice. Actually, I'm going to show you guys the tank tunnel build first, because it should build up my stacks of Force Cloak. Yeah, so on the, what do you call it, this build, I'm taking Force Wave in the tree instead of Lift. So it'll look like that. It's a cleaner animation than the one Imp Side, in my personal belief. Alright, and also in this build, I'll explain the implants really quick. I'll go over everything kind of after the builds. We are taking Shadowcraft for this build because the idea of this build is that whenever you take damage with your Dark Ward, and the tank tunnel build, there's a point right here. Yeah. Whenever you take damage from your Dark Ward, the cooldown of Force Cloak is reduced by 2 seconds. If it's broken by damage, it reduces the accuracy of all nearby enemies by 20% for 6 seconds, which is also going to increase your survivability, by the way. So to get in here and kind of show you an opener, we're going to get our stack built up. 1, 2, 3. There's another stack built. It's not the most impressive damage in the world, obviously, but it just is really nice. And then you can pop like your recklessness here to boost the damage. See, that was like 4 hits 20k in a row, so that was decent damage right there. But yeah. And my health is like passively regenerating over time, so it is what it is. So the second implant I take on the tank tunnel build is Dynamic Force. I also take this as my first implant on the regular build. And notice here I am taking tank relics. So I have what do you call this one? The Absorb and Shield relics. This is kind of like a permanent DCD. It's going to help you stay up. I do also take these in the other build because Sin Tank is, like I said, very squishy. And it definitely needs a good healer with you if you are running Skank Tank like I am. This just looks like hybrid, but these are the only 2 tank pieces I have. Everything in this piece right here is DPS. Everything in this piece is DPS. All of these pieces, DPS. So, yep. I'll go over the tree a little bit. Like I said, like everything, pretty much except for level 27, 39, and 68 is going to remain the same in the tree here, as you can see. Now I'll go into my regular build, and then I'll actually kind of talk about it. Let me go to this. Need to show something off in this. The Cleave swap build. Okay, there we go. All right, now I don't need a Shadowcraft for this build, so I'm gonna stay out of stealth rather. So yeah, I change my implants. I keep Dynamic Force, and then I add on Force Resistance for the Elemental, Internal, Kinetic, and Energy damage reduction by 3% here. And this is just because, like I said, you're very squishy, and a lot of the classes that are performing very well right now are light damage. But do watch out for Carnage Marauders. They can tank your health pretty easily because you are a light armor user and they have armor penetration, which will go right through your light armor unless you have like deflection up. And also, by the way, Resilience or Shroud isn't going to do anything against them unless they're hitting their Clashing Blast or what's it called, Devastating Blast into Shroud. So if you can catch that with Shroud, that's nice, but I typically save it for other stuff because of our tacticals. So we have 2 tacticals for this, right? Friend of the Force and Shroud of a Shadow. Like Friend of a Horse is Shroud Guard, and Shroud of a Shadow is Extended Shroud. Shroud of a Shadow is the more PvE one. So let me go. Where's something I can guard? Right here. C2, R2. Okay, so I have my guard on him. I just guard swapped because I saw that he was going to have damage by 2 madness or 2 AP, whatever. I give him Shroud there. He's kind of standing against the ship, so maybe it's kind of hard to tell. But he did have Shroud there in his little buff tray. So that's very useful for games against yellow damage dealers that are timing their damage together. But like I said, like the guard damage you're going to take, plus just being squishy in general, you want a good healer with you. And I would definitely suggest a Merc healer to pair with this, and not like an operative healer, because operative healers are going to be a target anyway, and unless they're able to heal both you and them at the same time, it's not going to be quite as fun. You can also maybe put like a SWTOR healer that's really good at kiting and staying, away from the damage with this, because the best way to mitigate damage is to not take it at all, which is with good positioning, obviously. Kind of the same thing goes for this tank. Like I said, you can kind of stay out of combat for the most part and just chill. If you just strafe away while using Cascading Debris to like this range, but your target's like on this guy, you're staying in guard range technically, and then you can just jump back in and do some more of this stuff at like a 10-meter range, and then pop right back out, strafe away with your Cascading Debris. And if you want to, pop right back in here. Which, by the way, if you use your AoE taunt in this build, I have selected here, you see all these heals we're getting? We're getting heals because we are taking the point in this build where if you do damage to your taunted target, you get heals out of it. So this is to keep you up a little bit better. Now that I'm done with that, I will go back to showing the build. Alright, so in this build, now I will talk about all the utilities proper. So at level 23, we have Cascading Debris AoE, which you could change to either one of these for the Heart Swamp build. Because this, like, in level 27, we take Spike or Spinning Kick, pub side. You can change that to the left ability here, projects critical hit damage is increased by 50%, and dealing damage with project extends the duration of mind control by 3 seconds to targets already affected by your mind control. So that's for hard swaps, right? So if I wanted to do that, I can do this. Boom. I could make that 28k there, 27k there, which is still pretty good. But that would mess up with my abilities. Let me see if I can get a proc for it real quick. Yeah, there we go. Let me get the proc for it. Boom, 32k on that single 32k there. Yeah, see, that's really nice. If you want that damage, it's okay. But that's what the DPS are for. Maybe if your DPS are struggling, but I really like taking Spike over this. Am I out of combat? Yes, I am. I like taking Spike over this, and that's for my Cleave build, because Spike can just shut people down far more effectively. Because the power of Sim Tank is the power of controlling people with all your stuns, all your slows and stuff. So you have, let's see, Spike, hard stun, pull, lift, or if you wanted to take knockback, which you do on the other build, that's 4 stuns you can have at a time, and then you have slows on 4 slow and wither. And you have all this range stuff. You've got wither, shock, discharge, cascading debris, 4 slow, and your shock and shock, wither, and discharge are all on a very short cooldown. Like shock is on a ridiculous cooldown. So is cascading debris. You can just spam these two off of cooldown pretty much if you're in the cleave build and do as much damage as you need to do. See how easily I'm able to do this? It's ridiculous. Alright, now level 39. Each time you consume a charge of kinetic ward, the cooldown of mass mind control is reduced by 2 seconds. If kinetic ward is broken by damage, it deals 15k damage to nearby targets, generates a high amount of threat, and finishes the cooldowns of Force Breach and Slow Time. So you're getting even some like reductions on Force Breach here, which is Discharge, and Slow Time, which is Wither. If you take damage, obviously we're not going to take damage right now though. Yeah, this is how you get the heals on this. And what you can do, you can use like your single taunt on single target abilities, and you'll be off relatively fine. It's a couple seconds. Or what you can do, you can use your mass mind control on your AoEs. And I'm only hitting one person right now, but say you just hit your AoE, Cascading Debris, Wither, and Force Breach, or if you're in the Cleave pile, hit your your Lacerate. Like, you have so much Cleave available to you that if you're in a Cleave pile, you can sustain yourself a little bit. like I said, needs a good healer because you are pretty weak. Oh, sorry, that's not the right button. Level 43. Each time you deal damage to a target you have mind control, you restore 2 force and heal for 2% of your maximum health. So these 2 points tie together right there. 51, we take CC immunity, as you always should. 64, force speed, and Shadow Stride grants force phase, removing all movement and parrying effects and granting immunity to them for 2 seconds. So this is great. So on the tank tunnel build, we'll be using Shadow Stride simply for being in stealth, like you do on a DPS basically. But on my Cleave build, I can use it to get out of the Cleave. Say I'm in the Cleave over here, and everyone's just over here. Well, if there's like a one person standing over here, like a Madness Sork or like a healer or something, I can just bounce over here to them, stun them real quick so they don't pop on me. But that's gonna make them more likely to be pissed off, though, obviously. And then like run over here and start, doing damage against. Flip the camera. Um, I'm over here. I'm just doing damage out of the Cleave pile. Again, it's really nice. You can kind of do that combo with your AoE taunt. Yeah. So this is the Cleave. This is the one person, right? So I'm over here cleaving, and I zip to this one person, spike them, get out of combat, and then I can get back over here and get out of the Cleave while getting my health back up. Then I go back in. It's really nice. Oh, wrong button again. Level 68, yeah, like on my regular builds, I'll take Force Lift because it's more useful than Force Wave if I'm trying to cleave or Hard Swap. And then level 73, activating Cloak grants 2 seconds of Resilience or Shroud, which you should always take so you can get out of combat. Now, one thing I will add with this, if you, where's on training dummy? If you are in combat, the dummy cannot show this, but if you are in combat and you use your cloak, and somebody does damage to your guarded target over here, C2 N2, it will pop you out of combat. So what you need to do before you leave combat to use your cloak, you need to drop your guard. And then you can get out of combat just fine with your cloak. Obviously, you don't have a second one available. I probably should have swapped to Tank Tunnel build and let it build up for a second. Yeah, make sure you drop your guard before you cloak. If you want to actually get out of combat and say go out of combat heal over here and like watch the fight or something like that. And then you can just go right back in. And just kind of do something like this. Yeah, the overall strength of this tank is relying on its range and mobility. So obviously on Jug Tank is a much more of a 10-meter ability class. Or sorry, 4 meter for Jug Tank. This is much more of a 10-meter class than Jug Tank is. So you actually are able to kind of rely on not being in the Cleave all the time. Yeah, it's really nice. It's something you can do. Let's say if these two were actually closer together, it would be much easier to show. But let's say you wanted to pull a healer into the Cleave. You could pull the healer into the Cleave and do, this. If you had a PT with you, they could carbonize, which I think this would be a really fun, strong tank to use with like a Pyro as your DPS companion, maybe. Something like that. It would be really neat. But yeah, what you could do, pull them out over here, slow them down. Oh my god, can I use slow? Like so, stack your slows, do a breach, cascading debris on them. Do that, and that'll just put pressure on. Because one thing that I like about Sun Tank over PT Tank is that it has way more pressure because you can do more damage. And if you just have a Pyro like DPS with you, or an NG that can slow people down massively in their plasma probe, um, you can actually get your damage off and put a lot of pressure on the enemy team, as well as doing your debuff with an AOE that isn't cone shaped like fucking Jug with Whirling Blow. So yeah, and that's pretty much all there is to this guide. One little final note, like I said earlier at the beginning of the video, I think this is much better in regs than arenas because the arena, what do you call it, skill cap is going to be much higher. A lot of people in arenas will actually tank tunnel all the time, and there's a lot more healers queuing regs anyways. But yeah, and like I said, I'll have everything transcribed at the bottom for darkness. So yeah, that will be all. You guys have a great day, and let's see some more tank heal games in arenas. I want to play this in arenas, and I actually want to use it. So yeah, you guys have a great day. Be good people, and goodbye.